back to Hotbox Cryptid Talk, Episode 2. I am Isai.
I'm Sarah.
That's whatever you to introduce yourself. There's nobody else here. So we're
I
finally
know.
back at it after some time because I kept getting sick because there was some contaminated water around where we live. And I was drinking a bunch of it the day that they said, hey, you know what, don't drink the water. So then I was fine for a bit and I ended up getting sick about a week later for a week. And then they were like, hey, the water's fine, you can drink it again. So then I started drinking it again. And then I got sick for like another week. Another like 2 weeks actually. And that was crazy. Yeah.
I can't believe
Anyways.
it lasted that long is my thing. Like how the whole thing of like, oh no, the water's not contaminated. It's just a hoax, but everyone was getting like violently ill.
Yeah. It's like yeah, for sure. The thing that was crazy is because like I mean I drink it all the time, and then I'd already like and I usually try to be pretty good at like drinking a lot of water.
Yeah.
So then I was drinking a lot of it already that day, and then like when I got sick the first time, it was like okay whatever like I was throwing up and stuff, and then the second time when because I got like sick basically like immediately after I had gotten better, and that's when I was at the doctors and they're like yeah you know your intestines are all like inflamed, right? From throwing up and all that stuff. So
I
then,
I was scared that you were gonna text me and say you got worms. That was my
it's
fear.
crazy. That would have
Like
been
it,
crazy.
it got so bad that I got worms from the water.
Yeah. So then they gave me antibiotics and all that other stuff, and then eventually, like a little while later, started to feel better. But yeah, so there's some crazy stuff because I had some time on our hands, or at least like, I didn't. But then I was sick the whole damn time, so oh was. But we're getting into fairies and changelings and the Fae and stuff like that. You know,
Leprechauns.
yeah. We've been sitting on this one for a while because again, it was supposed to happen probably a couple of months ago,
Yeah.
but we're here. So you go ahead and you take it away since
Life
this is
happens.
yeah right. This is more uh, your pick, so I'll let you go and run away with it for.
Ooh, okay. So, uh, just just to start off, okay, I was one of those kids that had those fairy books, and I got really into like reading all of like those hardcore like, you know, oh, if you step a foot into the fairy world, you're gonna get kidnapped. So that was like, first of all, that was my real fear. It's like starting off. I think I was like 8 years old when I realized that like something like that could possibly happen. Like, I mean, no one really knows because these people that are stepping into these fae worlds are gone forever. They never come back. So like, how am I supposed to know that I'm gonna survive if I go to like this fairy world, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so it trickled me down this path of I didn't even know what changelings were until like not too long ago. Like I didn't know they were called changelings. And basically these fairies would swap out their ugly babies with human babies that looked kind of similar. And you know what? I don't know if it was like because they look similar or if it was because they would like cast a spell on their like fairy child and then put them in the human world. But supposedly fairies can't nurse um at all in general. So that's the reason why they would kidnap the human baby and replace
Yeah.
them with the fae
I
baby.
saw some of that when I was doing the research on it, so they could nurse. They would kidnap human women to nurse fairy children, right?
Yeah.
Which is
That would fuck
part of
me
the
up. Can you
part of the
imagine
lore.
giving birth and then getting kidnapped and then being like, yo, give me your titty milk right now for my baby. My baby needs it because fuck your baby. My baby's more important. That's
That
crazy.
is crazy, right? And
But
there was like yeah, there's like a lot of that whole like will we swap you out with you know an identical changeling, quote unquote. But a lot of the times, I guess that they weren't. It wasn't spot on, right? Because it'd be like, why does
mhm.
my kid have a beard and stuff like that? Like something's going on here. But yeah, and then Yeah, there's some cases out there that were like real life events that I saw where the lady they got what she got thrown in the fireplace or something like that. You know
Yeah.
the because
Hmm.
the father and the husband were like, that's not my wife, that's a changeling. You know, it's just
Yeah,
like
and he murdered her in their family's like fire. What is it called?
fireplace.
Fireplace.
Yeah,
Yeah, he just pushed her in there. Like they literally, so they got into a big fight. He fought her, so like he attacked her,
yeah,
and then threw her in the fire to burn alive.
right. Because if it was a changeling, I mean, the story goes that they would just jump out the fireplace and then they would return your loved one to you. You know, it was crazy.
To me, I think like I imagine the most like horrendous shit when that happens. Okay, so obviously, like according to them, they're not gonna get hurt by the fire. So then I imagine like this weird like let me just go ahead and bring your family back. Like that's weird, right? Like
Like a little laughing freaking
a little
malevolent fairy
leprechaun.
or
Yeah.
leprechaun, right? No,
Yeah, like that's what I imagine is like this weird like, cartoon and the guy's like, dancing on the side and like he's got
dancing on
like
the
these weird
air.
little elf
Right?
shoes.
He's like dancing on the air, all like,
Yeah.
try again.
Thanks for throwing me in the fire.
Right?
Can't believe you saw right through that
No,
trap,
not
huh?
this time. This is like, yeah, right. When you think of
Crazy.
like, because doing the research on it and stuff like that, you think of like the mischievousness of like some of these fairies, right? And that's kind of what I think of, right? Like just asshole, like
Mhm.
little fucking dick fairies that are running around kicking your fucking carton of milk over and shit. You know, like that's what I kind of like with some of the ones, right? Because they're saying they're like that's kind of what they do. You know, what was it like Bogarts and uh, I forget what it is. Brownies and Bogarts, right? Those are like the names for it. When I see a
Yeah.
brownies
Those are
and
the ones that are like the asshole
yeah,
ones.
and because they're the ones that help you. They like, well, there used to be the like the type, but that I can't remember the name of. It's probably in my notes. Um,
You know what? There's also something very similar. I will not name out loud because you know, the Mexican folklore, but there's like I'm scared that they're gonna show up at my house. That's the only reason why I'm not gonna say their name out loud. But they show up and eat your toenails in your house. Like, why? What is the like?
yeah,
Can
some
we
of
just?
this.
I just want to break it down for a second because what kind of creature wants to eat your fucking toenails? And like, and if they will steal children too, and they kidnap kids, but like they don't give them back. They're no changeling type of thing. It's a full kidnap situation, and they just take the kids after eating your toenails or after eating their toenails, and then they just take them. But like, I will not say their name out loud. I just
Yeah,
won't.
it's crazy. Eventually, we'll get there. Eventually, we'll get to the episode and we'll talk about that.
But yeah, I don't want to get into it because that's one of the phase that I really
Dang,
just like.
scary. That's real life, scary Sarah,
Yeah,
huh?
that's definitely a creature that scares the shit out of me. And it was after I went down this rabbit hole of like trying to discover like what they really work because I heard of one of them before and I seen some videos. Obviously, they're kind of hoax because it looks too crazy. Like it looks like this like little
It's like,
child, like four, like three, no, like 2 inches tall, very small. And
uh,
he's just like running down the street. Ain't no way that that is fucking real. But the fact that people think that that's real, like that's what these things look like, it scared me. So I was like, you know what? No, because spooky stuff happens in Mexico all the time. And I'm not
yeah,
cool with that.
yeah, spooky stuff. It happens all over this. It's an alien hotspot. Right.
It really is. And I have no idea why. But I think well, my thought is maybe it's because maybe it used to be like a Fae hotspot because why would all these like little creatures and stuff like that like appear in Mexico and aliens are also cool with being there,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So
All that
just like Ireland,
Ireland with fairies.
fairies and Nessie and like everything, like they have so many things going on out there. I think it's just kind of like similar to like Mexico, like maybe it's just like a hotspot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like underground well of something, a face something.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I could see that. Because they get a lot of sightings and videos that always come out of there.
Hmm.
Um, what was I gonna say? That yeah, but the fairy stuff, like a lot of that plays into like I feel like the upbringing of like fantasy, like like either gaming or tabletop, like playing freaking Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. So you think like
Hmm.
fairies, right? And it's just like, oh yeah, like fairies, right? Stuff like that. And it's like, you know, so like that kind of stuff, or
Yeah.
like there's like a familiar. There was like already a little bit of like a familiarity with it. Just
Hmm.
like knowing of like an existence of like these fairies that aren't just like a Tinkerbell, right, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just
Like,
stuff like that.
okay, like reverting back to what I was saying originally about those fairy books and stuff. So everyone thinks that fairies are, gentle creatures and they're just like, love and light, whatever. But that's not how fake culture works, from what I understand. Like across the board, fake culture is like very much like I owe you, you owe me, otherwise I own you type of thing. And it's like the most like minuscule, like I think, wow, I can't even say that. Minuscule.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah. But like during the pandemic there was some crazy sightings of like fairies and stuff, or at least it was all over my TikTok and my Twitter for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But of people putting, or like going outside, and there would be like rocks and like little presents and stuff like on the welcome mat. And people were like screaming in the comments, don't touch it, don't touch it, because once you touch it you're accepting the gift of the fairy and now you
Dang,
owe
and then
them
that's it.
something. Mhm.
Now you're dead. You're dead. Now, because when I was looking at the stuff up, right, and I was looking, particularly, I think it was Scottish fairies, right? They're like categorized into two different groups, which was like the Seelie court and the Unseelie court, and like the Seelie court was like the fairies that say they help people, right? They're like the ones
Mhm.
that they do stuff around your house and stuff, for if you feed them and clothe them, whatever kind of thing like that. And then there's like the unseelie court. There's the ones that always fuck with people, either
Mhm.
just like, just messing with you, kind of. I don't know. I guess like a medium level of like harassment, or even
Mhm.
more of like being really malevolent kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, there's definitely two different types. It's just that usually I feel like with media, or like most media that I can think of, I guess, I don't know. Um,
Mhm.
you see the fairies that are, you know, trying to help you, kind of thing,
Mhm.
more than the ones that are trying to take your children.
Well, I think maybe people don't want to report those ones. Like if someone is coming to your house and you have no control over them and they're trying to take you or your kids or like your dog or something,
Mm-hmm.
like who has time to record that? You know what I mean? Like I'm sure they're going to try and fight whatever it is that's trying to come and take them.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Uh,
Like I sure as fuck would not be recording if someone was trying to take my dog, like you're going to die, like I'm coming for you.
right. Yeah, and then the fairies have their own, like, cities and governing bodies and shit
Mhm.
like that, supposedly too. I mean, and like all of this folklore from like Scotland, Ireland, and like stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I'm like, what? And that's nothing that I had ever even thought of before, like doing the
You know
research
what?
for the video kind of thing.
Like the best way that I can like recommend it to anyone that's like curious is with like a little grain of salt. Watch True Blood. There's an episode where they go into the fairy world and they show like part of the fairy world. And I believe that it's kind of similar to that. Like I don't think it's exactly like that, but I think they're going in the right direction of what I believe in, like all the books that I read like growing up and stuff like that. Like I think that it's similar-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, I can't remember any of the books that I read. They just got them at Barnes and Nobles back in the day. back when we had bookstores and stuff. But like,
There's still Barnes and Noble. It's just not close as all. All right, but
no,
it's there.
it's the same distance. They're both the same distance from each other. It's like 40 minutes away.
Yeah, you just gotta
But
drive 40 minutes to go get a book as all. But that's why it's
yeah,
always like a day trip. You know, maybe that's just me being old. I don't know. I'm like, I'm going to Barnes and Noble. I'm gonna get a
it is
coffee.
like a whole like
That's
day
it.
trip.
I can't do nothing else that day.
Because you're driving like basically an hour if there's traffic, and then you hang out at Barnes and Noble for like who knows how long because like you're
You're
trying to
looking
find a
through
new
stuff.
book or
Yeah, yeah, like
yeah.
all the other little like bullshit they have.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love all their little toys and their board games. Oh my
right.
god,
Dang.
good. Barnes and
Freaking
Nobles,
books on cryptids maybe, huh? Something like
something.
that. Yeah, on some fairy books.
I mean, that's where I got my first fairy book was in Barnes and Nobles. But anyway,
Moving on.
we really trailed off there. While we're on the subject though, this is a great energy drink.
Yeah, did you get that
Just
Barnes
kidding.
and Nobles?
No, no, I didn't actually. Anyway,
Yeah,
um,
changelings, fairies.
changelings, doppelgangers. The doppelganger one fucks me up because there's a whole separate theory on that, and that also goes into the alien shit that people are kidnapping them and putting doppelgangers in.
Yeah, that's the one thing
You
that
know?
I wanted to say as far as like the doppelganger thing is that like pretty much anything, not anything, but there's a lot of shit that are like doppelgangers, quote unquote, right? Which is like the fairy type doppelgangers or alien freaking
Mhm.
doppelgangers or even like fucking like what wendigos and like
Yeah.
skinwalkers and stuff like that because they a lot of times they imitate freaking voices or and appearances
Mhm.
of shit. Yeah, yeah, all of that shit's crazy, and anything
Yeah.
they can freaking either take the form of yourself or somebody else that it's not them. That shit is
Mhm.
scary. That's already like 100% level scary, like that in
Yeah.
itself. More.
Anything that can mimic someone's voice freaks me out. Like the
Sorry.
looks, yes, for sure, but like the voice thing really like freaks me out. Like the whole like Wendigo thing that freaks me out. When I saw so many videos of people just like
Hearing
recording like
voices.
people just like standing there like in the distance. Like there's a very specific video that lives in my mind rent free, and it's this guy and he's like going on a walk on a like a dirt road, and on the side of the road there's just like a bunch of tall grass or wheat. I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't live in the country. And like there's
Something.
some dude.
Some sort of
Yes.
vegetation on the side of the road for our
Yeah,
audio
and
listeners.
and he's like pretty far away from the person and he's not moving. And it clearly looks more like of a masculine type of body build, but it's you can hear like a woman's voice going, help me. And he's like real fucking far away. So it's like echoing. And it's like a woman's voice. And the dude's just like standing there frozen. And his camera's kind of shaking a little bit while he's recording because this thing is not moving. Because like you know how like in Wendigo like culture you're not supposed to like turn your back and like run away from this thing because it'll chase you, and you're not supposed to like fully like like you're supposed to keep an eye on it but still like move away from it.
Yeah, you're not
And this
supposed to like
dude,
acknowledge the existence or anything like that either.
yeah,
Or talk about it. Yeah.
yeah. And so this dude, like, he's not saying a word. You could just like you can feel the panic because of the camera shaking, and he is not like moving away. Like he's just like standing there, and then he slowly starts backing up, like pretending like, oh, I don't have anywhere to go. I forgot something or something. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of vibe. And he's just like, then the video ends. And I'm like, this dude probably died. He probably died. He probably posted that and died.
Yeah, that's crazy. You're gonna have to remember that video so that when we do a Wendigo Skinwalker like
Hmm.
episode, we can throw that in there.
It was somewhere on TikTok, so like I'll look for it. But it just I saw it long time ago, towards not well I guess not that not blah, 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 I can't even talk. Not that long ago, maybe in like 2021 it came out because that's when like people were going out. They were allowed to leave after COVID and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like a little bit. They were supposed to go outside. So I think that's when people were like hiking a lot. And so there was a lot of like creature activity. And I think maybe they thought they could come back out because the humans like disappeared or something, you know?
Right.
So maybe that's what it was, because there was a lot of activity on my social medias. Like as I was just like scrolling through things, it was just like crazy, like activity after like activity. But yeah.
Some of that stuff, though, I mean, and like I want to answer that, like as far as the whole like looking at stuff and being like that's crazy, but then we're just
Yeah.
gonna even go more off of like topic.
Oh yeah, I know. I know. I'm sorry. I
Like,
keep doing that.
nah, it's. I mean, it's fine, whatever. But and it, wow, going back to the fairies and changelings, right?
Let's travel back to Ireland.
No,
1687.
and like some of the stuff that they say, and they're talking about how like if you found out that your child was a changeling or whatever, like how would you be able to get your actual child back? And there was a couple of things because all this folklore stuff has like, well, this is the way you were supposed to do it, and it was like either you would make them laugh or you would like torture them, right? So it's just like, but which also, you know, ended up into like a lot of real world cases of like child abuse because,
And murder.
well, yeah, but then like because also too like a lot of people back then, I wish I freaking had the years. I mean, I might have put them somewhere in here. Anyways, it's not important.
It was
But
like
a long time
16
ago.
something.
Like it was a long time ago, a long enough time ago for people to be like, hey, you know what, my son or daughter, child has some sort of deformity. You know what? They're a changeling. Let's beat them up. Like that's crazy. Like that, because that's how some of that stuff went down.
Yeah, exactly. Any like I think it was, from what I read, I think it was like autism was like the biggest thing, because the kids were like too smart. Like they shouldn't have been doing like things that kids their age should like were doing and stuff like that. And they would like burn them, or they would like put steel stuff like in their beds and shit like that to like, can you imagine going to bed and you have like a steel knife like under your pillow to keep the fae away and whatever? And like, or like how they would like they would burn the kids. They would
Yeah.
burn the kids. And it was like at any age they were doing that, like from infant to like, well, really like to adulthood. They were doing that stuff.
Yeah, and I just saw right now in my notes that the year of when the lady Bridget Clary got burned by her father and husband was 1895.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, wow,
That was the
while
time
back,
of the
but
witchcraft.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
a long way back, but still, for it to be like, dang, that's crazy.
I mean, that was definitely the era of like abuse to women. I feel like they were just looking at for any excuse to murder women at that point.
Well, I mean, but
Yeah.
if they were if it was the era of abuse for women, they would have just killed her, but it would have been okay with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because she wasn't guilty of being a changeling or a witch, so they were like, "Oh no, we just killed an innocent woman." But
Yeah.
you know how it was back then in history.
Yeah. That's for sure.
There was something that I did want to talk about though. Because in Scandinavia, they were the ones that would place. Sorry, let me look at my notes. They would place iron tools such as a pair of scissors or a knife on top of cradles of unbaptized infants to prevent to prevent its abduction by trolls,
Yeah,
because
because the
they weren't
iron.
super scared of changelings as much as they were trolls. And who was the other one? I can't remember. But trolls was definitely the biggest one, because yeah, trolls are scared of iron.
Yeah, because I think also
In their culture.
leprechauns also are as well. I believe. I think,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, leprechauns. Hmm.
Right.
I don't know.
Too much about the leprechauns or what?
Yeah, the leprechaun thing, I know that the color of their their outfit was incorrect.
No, yeah,
I
it
don't
wasn't
know.
green. I think it was red or something like
It
that.
was
Yeah,
red.
this is like
Yeah.
what what happens.
And like they would get like mega pissed if you like found their gold and stuff like that, because like there's only like one way that you can see them. Oh my god, I wish I had notes on these, because I remember like reading this and I was like, no fucking way. Like this is the craziest thing. It's because leprechauns for the longest time used to scare the shit out of me growing up, because of the movie
Because the movie
Leprechaun. I watched
Leprechaun.
it.
It's great. It's a
Yeah.
great movie.
I watched it far too little.
Stupid.
And so then I was like forever scared of like leprechauns after that. So like I really tried in my whole power to just stay away from
You know
leprechauns.
what though? Because the same though. I don't know.
Mhm.
Leprechaun, the first one was on at some point somewhere, somehow, and I remember being all freaked out about it. But then, like 10 years down the road, like I'm like, oh, have you seen Leprechaun? It's great. It's like ridiculous, And I was like, and there's like a million of them, and the other ones are even more so ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
it gets worse and worse. Like Leprechaun in the Hood. I don't know why, but that one is the one that just lives in my mind.
there's like yeah,
The first one and then Leprechaun in the Hood. That's the one. Those are the ones. If you're gonna watch any of them,
Leprechaun.
viewers, watch those ones.
But leprechauns, I guess, is by default are neither good nor entirely evil. I mean, the leprechaun in the
Hmm.
movie was entirely evil.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
they're mischief makers. They're supposed to be about 3 feet tall. The red jacket instead of the
Hmm.
green jacket. They started depicting them as green jackets in the 20th century. Um, what is it called?
Do you know? Do you know? Maybe why they started doing that? Do you
No,
know or
I
no?
don't know. Entirely why. I did
Hmm.
other stuff on them. Is that supposedly if you catch one, they are inclined to show you their treasure,
Hmm.
basically, for the most part. And they avoid friendships with other fairies, apparently. Right, and because they also have no interest in marriage nor family, compared to like some of the other fairies. Because some of these, obviously, a lot of these fairies, they're different types, and they reproduce with each other, and they make other
Hmm.
types. So a leprechaun, supposedly, right, is by birth of low descent, you know. So his father being an evil spirit, and then his mother being a degenerate fairy.
That's fucking crazy.
That's where leprechauns come from. Kind of thing.
Uh
But
huh.
yeah, it's interesting. But again, the only thing that I really knew about leprechauns from before was because of the leprechaun movies, or just
Hmm.
like, you know, popular culture, freaking random leprechauns stuff that is out there. I don't know, Lucky Charms, stuff like Luck of the Irish, you know,
Oh my god, the look of the Irish when
stuff
his
like that.
ear started changing. Whew, that
Yeah,
was so. That on. I know that wasn't supposed to be a scary movie or anything, but because I was so scared of leprechauns when
you
I
didn't
was
want to
little,
turn
that scared
into
the
one.
fuck out of me. Yeah, I was like, how do I avoid that at all costs? And then I was like, you know what, Sarah, you're not Irish, so you don't have to worry about none of that. And then I was like, you're right.
That's funny.
I had to hype myself back out of it, out of the fear of getting little elf ears. I wouldn't mind having pixie ears though. Like I wouldn't mind turning into a pixie. I think they're kind of cool because it reminds me of oh my god, what are they called in Greek history? The nymphs. That's kind of like what pixies kind of remind me of. Like I feel like fairies are a little bit more like no offense to pixies or fairies or anything, but I feel like fairies are a little bit more like higher class, like more like high elves, like in
Mm-hmm.
like fantasy world. I feel like they're more like high elves, and like I feel like pixies are more like dark elves type of thing. That's just
Yeah,
kind of like how from the photos and stuff that I see, like fairies are more human-esque and like pixies are more like nymph looking.
from the
That's what I see.
I got a couple of pixie notes, right, and it
Mhm.
was a type of fairy common in the United Kingdom, particularly to Devon and Cornwall, right?
Mhm.
And as most pixies are believed to live underground in large mounds and stone circles, which
Mhm.
is like fairy mounds and stuff like that. I do remember seeing a couple of different investigators go to like Ireland and stuff like that, and then like they
Mhm.
showed like the mounds that they're talking about, like the fairy mounds and stuff. So,
Yeah.
which is just cool. I mean, it's cool to look at in general, but fairies coming out of it, I guess, would be a nice step up of like, wow, that's crazy, you know.
I think that would scare the fuck out of me. I think if I saw that, I would turn around and go the other way.
Dang, like remember like when we went camping and then all of those freaking like flying ants were just shooting out of the freaking
Oh
the
my god,
stump. So that's what it
yes.
would be like. It would be like a mound of like grass and flowers and to be a bunch of fairies just fucking shooting up everywhere.
You know what? See, I don't want to be anywhere near that because I know that I would be a good victim for them to take. They'd be like, you're middle aged, we can get you. I know I'm not that middle aged, but I feel like it. But you're middle aged and we're gonna
Get
take
you?
you and yeah, and do whatever it is that they're gonna do with me, make me a slave or something, because they think humans are disgusting. So like I mean from what I saw was that they think that humans are disgusting. So they think that we're like the lowest of the low, you know, because we don't care for nature and that's something that's like a pet peeve for them. So it's like it can aggro them. Like if they see you litter or
Yeah, like
they like
woodland fairy kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, they really take it personal because they feel really bonded to the earth. So like if you're being disrespectful to anything of nature, like animals, plants, anything, the dirt, um they take it really personal and they'll like cause mischief in your life so that it's like an eye for an eye type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. The and pixies usually are very like small in stature, and you never really see them alone. They're always in groups, right?
Just
So,
like hyenas.
but that's really most of just the things that I have on them, right?
Hmm.
Because they're all like offshoots of like fairies and stuff like that. And then the
Yeah.
brownies and the bogarts, they're the guys that come out and clean your house when you're sleeping.
At midnight. They come out at midnight because that's when the veil of the worlds are thin between the spirit world, which is I guess where they are,
Uh-huh.
and the human world. So that's when they come out. That's when the doors open for them is at midnight.
And then they clean your stuff up. They freaking start washing your socks, you know?
Yep. Just so that they can have a place to live.
For sure.
I mean, I don't think that's super bad, but I think that would scare the fuck out of me.
But that's what the
Any
brownies are, though. Like, that's what it
Mhm.
is. That's why I remember. Because that's what they are. They're brownies when they're chilling and you guys are, like, coexisting. And then when you do something to offend them or whatever, then they turn into bogarts. And that's when they start being assholes. And apparently, you can't move to get rid of one. They'll just follow you to your next house.
Yep.
You know?
Until like you fix it. Like you have to like try and fix it. Like
Yeah.
whatever you have to appease them. And it could be anything. Like they will like barter with you to take like your firstborn child or something. Like it could be anything that they want. So that's a fuck no for me because knowing my personality, I would accidentally offend one of them and then they would all fucking hate me and then we wouldn't be friends anymore and they would be torturing me.
That's right. That's how it would go.
Yep, just like that thing that I can't talk about.
The Mexican thing.
The Mexican thing that I can't talk about.
Crazy. Yeah, don't talk about it. It's
No,
scary.
because I heard that they appear if you talk about them, so
Oh,
I don't want to
dang.
talk about them.
Like Biggie Smalls.
Biggie Smells.
Excuse me.
um so there was a weird thing that I did read. So I
Go on.
guess the Ireland changelings, what they would do to kind of like suss them out is boil eggshells.
Boil eggshells. What was it supposed to do?
So, I'm not entirely sure. I think it just makes them sick, like the smell of it or something. Sorry, my notes are all over the place. Because in Ireland, it was recommended that if you thought your baby was a changeling, to put the baby in the house fire. Reason being is that the changeling would jump out of the chimney with the human
I
baby
told you.
that was stolen, and but due to this, they recommended people to stop putting their babies in the fireplace
Probably
because right, babies were scarce anyways at this time frame. So, because there's so much like dirt and bacteria and all that stuff. You know, there was no such thing as vaccines and stuff back then. So at this time frame,
Mm-hmm.
it was very rare that a child would live past like a certain amount of months. Just based on just life
Just the
happening.
living conditions, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just being dirty. So on top of that, then we had this changeling outbreak where people were throwing their babies in the fucking fire. Um, so they were recommended to stop doing that. Um, and there was like crazy amount of deaths at this time frame. So instead, you would boil you would boil eggshells,
Eggshells.
which would confuse the changeling, and they would ask you basically, what the fuck are you doing? Like they would mock you, they would think you're stupid, so they would say something to you. And this ranges from
Oh.
like infant to child, you know.
They
So
would give
can you
themselves up,
imagine?
basically.
Yeah. And then that's when you can catch them, and you can tell them, like, if you catch them basically, then they're obligated to give you the baby back,
Mm-hmm.
and they switch back. But I mean, this, can you imagine a 6-month old infant just sits up and is like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you stupid?
Hey, dum dum, you're not supposed to
Yeah.
do that like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So that would be a way, that's what they recommended for people to stop doing, was stop murdering your babies and just
Mm-hmm.
boil eggshells instead, because it's a lot safer.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
I mean, yes.
And then there would be another one, which I can't pronounce this, but if the baby sneezed, you're supposed to say God bless you, but it's like, I'll try and pronounce it, but it's fucking crazy. Garium August Crocerium, which means I bless you or God bless you. I'm not sure what language that's supposed to be in, but that's something that they would also use for the Ireland changelings. And it would force them to be like, oh my God, like I guess blessing them is something
That
that
they
they
don't
didn't
like.
like. Yeah. And so it would force them to like speak and say something, and then that's when you catch them, and then you can be like, hey, give me my baby back. So that was another thing. There was one more. A possible tactic was to insert oneself into an argument over who would keep the child. So like if you and your partner got into a fake argument
Mm-hmm.
and act like you were going to split up, you had to argue about who was going to keep the child. And then you would shout, "Give it to me," which would trick the fairy into releasing the child back to the human couple. That one is weird to me in general
Yeah, that sounds
because
too easy, right? Just give me
yeah,
my kid back, all right? Enough. Just enough fucking around. Just give me my kid
yeah, but I
back.
guess
Like,
it
okay,
forces them to give you your kid back. I don't
okay.
know how that would even work. Can you imagine they did all this work? They like studied you, they changed their child to look like you or look like your child, and then you go, give it back. Give what back? Give what back? Because like again, this goes back to like my books. Okay, so in fairy world, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be very, very, very specific. Like, you know how they say, like, they talk about genies and you have to be very specific with the
Like how
wish,
you
otherwise
ask,
it
yeah.
fucks you over. Yeah. So it's the same in fae cultures. You have to be very, very specific on how you ask things, like, or how you talk to them. You cannot fuck up or fumble your words because they take the first thing that you say seriously. So if you say give it back, they're probably going to sit there and be like, give what back?
And what are you talking about? What do you mean? You're
Yeah.
crazy.
So
I don't
that's the
got
one
nothing
that
years.
throws me off. Because I'm like, there's no way. There's
Yeah,
no way.
that sounds too easy.
Whoever said that was just like saying some
The
shit
whole
because they
throwing babies in
obviously.
the fireplace is crazy, right? Beating up your kids is crazy too. And you're telling me
Hmm.
that there was a third option, and it was like, hey, just,
Just give it back.
just give them back. Yeah, like, you know, come on,
Yeah,
just give them back.
there's no way. There's no way that that would actually be like the simplest thing to do, you know?
Yeah, that definitely seems like too easy compared to like the other options of what people were doing to try. You know, you gotta beat your kid up or the changeling, you know,
Murder them.
torture. I mean, I guess the one that was like where you can make them laugh because they appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I would say
Sicken
that
them.
one's like somewhere on the borderline because Faes are very silly creatures. Even the like really scary ones are still very silly creatures. They like to have a good time. So, I mean, that one kind of checks out a little bit better than this. Like, give it back. Give me my baby back. I don't know. That that's weird to me.
Yeah, the whole the fairy stuff is this is it's pretty crazy. I was watching one of those like investigative like kind of shows, and it was the same
Zach
one
Baggins.
with there with no that's all ghosts. I don't know if he does the stuff that's not ghosts, but they were doing like Ireland fairy holes and mounds kind of thing,
Mhm.
right? And they're like out there, and it's like dark because they're night. You investigate everything at night because supposedly that's when everything is most active, right?
Mhm.
Based on, I guess, most cryptids. Um, so they're out there and they're like, oh, there's some movement over there, and then whatever, and they go to like there's a little bunch of like trees where they saw it, right?
Mhm.
It's like a little patch of like forest, right? And they're like, oh, right next to this tree, and then they're looking at the tree, and
Mhm.
like at the base, because you know how like the base of a tree goes down and there's the trunk, and then sometimes there's like little imprints or little indentations right there, right?
Mhm.
And but they were like, pointing at it with their FLIR camera, right? The freaking the
Uh-huh.
like
Is it like the thermal
the
camera?
thermal one, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
like the little base of like the trunk was like all like hot compared to everything else, and they're like the freaking fairies ran up under into their cave, and I was like, it's like what? And they're like, that's
You know
crazy.
what? There's a real park that's like uninhabitable in Ireland, I think, or Scotland, one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's been there for like I don't even know how long, but it's a government property. No one is allowed to be on the other side of that fence, and it literally says that they're gonna like arrest you. You're gonna get like all these sentences or whatever if you climb over this fence and go on the other side. And it's like literally like in a field of nothingness, and on the other side of the fence is like all these trees and whatever, and it's a huge park. Like it's not just like some like little thing, and it's real. I googled it long, long, long time ago, but
Mm-hmm.
it's real. And basically, people were saying that they think it's like a leprechaun park, and the reason
Dang,
is,
they're like
I know it's scary, right? Can you imagine?
protective, protecting them, right? Like
Hmm.
little
But people think that there's more than that. So the reason
just
is a guy
fairies.
from who knows how long ago, he hopped over the fence with I guess a couple of his friends or whatever, and they were kind of like walking around on the inside, and they saw like little creatures, like little people, like running after him, like rabid type of thing. Like they were fucking mad that he was there, and he was able to get back over the fence. Like he didn't even make it that far, and he was able to make it back over the fence. And when he did, there was like a guard there, and he arrested him. So like, who knows what happened to him after that? But that's basically what had happened. So I think that maybe that might be like a leprechaun situation, but I mean, who knows what was chasing after him because he didn't even know.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And this was a real story that happened.
There's a lot of like places that are like that, obviously, like where they're like protective land that nobody's allowed to go.
Mhm.
That's good, but I mean, also too being like, I don't know, I'm just not there yet. I guess being like curious enough to be like, I'm gonna jump that fence and see what's on the other side. It's like nah, because if your assumption is right, and they're holding some sort of monster over there, that
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a very good time. Right?
Yeah. I
And
can't run fast.
that's what I'm saying. And that's just
Like
maybe me and you thinking crazy. But I mean, we're also, you know, doing a
we're not
podcast
investigators.
about cryptids, right? So there's obviously some sort of belief that we have in some of these things, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like that I have enough belief in some of the different areas. I mean, not even just that, like going off on it too, but just like being out, like some of the stuff, reports and shit that are like in the city. Okay,
Mhm.
you know, interesting. That's crazy. But some of that stuff where it's like where I was out in the country, or I was out and camping and stuff like that. Like for sure, a lot of that
I
stuff,
like say fucking less.
because a lot of that stuff, it can just be your own mind messing with you. But I mean, the
Mhm.
thing is like it's gonna, like if you're like, no man, I think I saw a shadow over there. But if it's because in your own mind you're like, I think I saw a shadow, then it's just like, yeah, you probably did. You know,
Mhm.
like your mind probably did make you see a shadow. Because yeah, being out in those situations where it's like just dark as fuck and there's not really a whole lot around, right?
Mhm.
And, like it's, you can sometimes you can hear like the littlest shit, and it could be anything,
Mhm.
right? But you're just like, if you're somebody like myself or you, where then you hear like the smallest crack or whatever, and you're like, what the fuck is that? Like
Yeah.
you're like, what is that? And it's just like, oh, it's just
Like when
a
we went camping, I could hear the birds landing on the branches in the trees, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't fucking sleep."
it's just
I
like,
kept thinking someone was like on the outside of our tent or whatever. Like I was tripping the whole time. I could not sleep good.
yeah, I've had that experience before. Not
Mhm.
like the last couple of times, I don't think so, as far as like camping goes. Where it's like where you get that feeling, it's just like I think there's something outside.
Mhm.
But I've definitely had that experience before. But yeah, it's crazy though. But that's what I'm saying. Like anywhere, just, and that's, you know
Mhm.
me saying that like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out in the wilderness for like a couple of days, and like, that's me wanting to do that. Like I'll do
Mhm.
that. I mean, like I won't jump into a government, uh, freaking park.
Fuck
That's
that.
no trespassing, especially if it's out kind of like in, if it's all just like quote unquote undeveloped land, just
Mhm.
it's gonna be a sanctuary or whatever kind of thing. Then it's just all, you know,
For our
should be
viewers
all
out
just
there,
vegetation.
please do not jump over fences that say "Do not trespass." Please,
Right.
yeah, recommend. It doesn't matter how curious you are. Please, don't do it because who knows what the fuck's gonna happen to you on the other side of the fence. But also, like when you cross back over, like the amount of jail time and shit, depending on like what country you're in. Like just just be careful out there.
Oh
We're not
yeah.
investigators, and I doubt that we're gonna ever investigate anything. So.
I mean, what did we say? If we got a million uh, listeners or something like that, that we would go somewhere. I forget where you said. You said I don't want to go there, and I was like, "We'll go." Damn it.
I think it was like to go and explore at like a lake or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think so. I think you're.
Something like that.
It was.
And
It's
then we
probably
were
in the
like, we're
last
not
one.
getting in the water though. Like
No, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'll go to like locations and stuff, but obviously, given time and resources, but
Mhm.
I ain't gonna go at night though.
Yeah,
Like,
fuck no.
I'll be
But you're
like,
the more adventurous one. Like you do go hiking and camping and stuff. I'm like the indoorsy person.
so I was like, so I'll go and I'll be like, yeah, like if it's along the way and stuff like
Mhm.
that, because again, just being wanting to go and explore things and stuff like that, and you know, there's a lot of different national parks, right, and
Mhm.
stuff, and but
The national parks thing is going to be a different podcast, guys. I'm just going to let you know because that is a whole rabbit hole that we could get into. So we're not going to get into that. I just want to throw that out there that, we definitely have talked about the national park situation before we decided that we wanted to make a podcast. Like, this is something that we have definitely talked about. But this is that's going to be a whole episode on its own.
oh yeah, for sure. I'm just saying, like, as far as that, if there's like stuff that I can drive by while I'm
Hmm.
going and doing stuff, and it's like, oh well, there was, blah blah blah, like up in Northern California, the, what is it? What's the hell is the name of it? Is it like Willow Creek or something like that? No, I feel like I'm confusing my areas, but something like that. There's a spot up there that I know it's a real big, like Bigfoot kind of hot spot and stuff. And it's like,
Oh, like where
yeah,
Washington and
like
California meet.
right before Washington, you know,
Oh
like
yeah,
so.
yeah.
But
That's
it's just
all
like,
just like forest.
yeah, I for sure like be like, yeah, I'll go check it out over there. I don't know if I'd go camp out in the woods at night over there. I'd get a
Yeah.
hotel and then and go and freaking maybe walk around, do a
Oh,
hike or something.
you know where it was that we were talking about was going to that festival for the Frogman.
Oh,
That's what
the
we were talking about.
Frogman
If we get
Festival.
like a certain
Uh,
amount of like followers or
that's
whatever, that
funny.
we would go
It's
over
like
to
if they're still
the
doing
Frogman
it, we'll
Festival.
go. We'll go to the
Yeah.
Frogman
I'll
Festival.
go to I'll go to the festival. I will, but I'm not gonna be walking around in the middle of the night looking for Frogman. I'll tell
Yeah,
you
because
what.
there's some cool. I mean, there's a couple of different ones for sure. Because different little towns they have different ways of getting tourism, stuff like that. Because there's like the Mothman Festival too, which I think would be kind
Yeah.
of cool. Again, I don't know if any of these things still go on. I don't see why they wouldn't. I feel like a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff is growing in popularity.
Oh,
More than it used to
definitely.
be. Before I was kind of a little weird being like, she watches a lot of Bigfoot stuff, right? And it's just like, what? It's interesting, right? But now all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's freaking Bigfoot stuff all over the place.
And you know what? I wanna blame my mom for the alien thing because she got me really into watching the History Channel when they had like the
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 ancient
ancient aliens.
aliens.
Yes. So to this day, she still watches Ancient Aliens. Like it is on the TV at least like once or twice a week. She loves that shit. And I want to blame her for me getting into aliens because I was never really into aliens before my mom, but I was into like fairies and like the whole fae culture. There was like this whole book series. I wish I could remember what it's called. But that was the one that integrated me into knowing that there wasn't good fae out there. I'm only calling it fae because it's like, it's a broad spectrum.
Yeah,
They have their whole
there's a lot
like
of different.
different like yeah, there's like different races and stuff out there. But they were the ones that showed me like about everything, like everything and everything, but they like dumbed it down a little for kids to kind of understand. And god, I wish I can remember because I was so obsessed with these books. Um but if I can remember what it's called, I'll have you link it in the bottom description so that
Mm-hmm.
people can like go and find these books
Maybe I'll throw
because
it up on the
it
screen or something. Well,
yeah,
mhm.
it's an easy read. Even like for I mean adults would probably could blast through this book in like an hour, but it's an easy read even for kids and I thought it was kind of like really informative like back in the day. But again, I wasn't looking for research. I was just like, wow,
Yeah,
berries are cool, you know?
there's a similar, I guess, experience that I had when I was in like elementary school, and I got a book, and the book was the Abominable Snowman, which is crazy because
Uh-huh.
I had no idea what that even was. I just remember looking at it and be like, "This book looks interesting, right?" And I got it, and then they were talking about the freaking, obviously, like the Tibetan Bigfoot and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
it was like illustrated and they had little stories and it was like, blah blah blah, it was like the legend of it or whatever. And it was like little Sherpa dudes and there were little pictures of like the guy on the ridge, right? The freaking Yeti and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, that's probably one of the first I would say cryptid things that I had come across in like my life, I guess.
Mhm.
Right, I was probably like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that checks out because I feel like our library when we were in elementary school was very much that. Like, we had, like, the Captain Underpants and stuff like that, but, like, there was a lot of,
Like
like,
random other
fairy, well, not fairy, but, like,
books.
fantasy books,
Yeah.
like, a lot of fantasy books that we had. And, like, I was the nerdy kid that hung out in the library, so I got to see all the books and I got to read everything. But, um, I think that our librarian wanted us to have an imagination, I think.
Which
Because
is
we
why
did
there's
have
all those books.
yeah, because the stuff that she would talk about too sometimes, I sound really fucking nerdy, like, I was hanging out in the library. But like but it was true though. I did hang out in the library instead of playing at recess. That was just the thing. But she would talk about like a bunch of stuff. Like she was so into just like science and fantasy, and so it checks out that she would want us to also read those things, because I mean they get to select what kind of books that they want us to read based on our school district,
Hmm.
so whatever she was allowed to have.
Yeah, and that was pretty much it as far as like, you know what. Also, I did have a T-shirt, and it was a Chupacabra T-shirt, and I think I was before I saw the Abominable Snowman book. I think
Yeah.
because that was at my grandparents' house that they had got it from, I don't know, wherever around the area, but it's because that's down in Mexico. So then,
Hmm.
like, obviously Chupacabra, and it was like, and he had a goat in his mouth.
Yeah.
Goat sucker, but so I was like, so maybe that would have been the first one, and then the Abominable Snowman stuff a little bit later on. Even
You know what? I think it's because it's like it's within our culture. Like we knew all of the scary Mexican like monsters, and we didn't know the stuff like outside because like of where we live and like how we grew up and stuff like that. I think it's just that's those creatures is something that we were more familiar with, like those stories, because it was in the area. It just makes sense. Well, not just the area, but like since we're so close to the border, and then you also grew up with your grandparents in Mexico and stuff like that. Like, I think I think that's just the thing, because I heard about the chupacabra when I was like really little too, and that
Yeah,
shit scared the fuck out of
and that would
me.
freak me out because again, we'll have to get into it on the Chupacabra
Yeah.
episode. But like at my grandparents' house, because it was kind of out in like the middle, it was kind of out past a lot of stuff. There's stuff there now. It's what 20 years later,
Yeah.
So there's more, but it was before just like a kind of a little town, little community.
Hmm.
So there was one main road that had a lot of the shops on it, and then everything else was just like dirt roads that went into, and it was all houses and everybody stuff like that. So it got pretty dark out there. And in my room was at the end of the hall, and there was like a little sliver of like backyard, because it was like a backyard, but then there was like a little walkway that went by like the window to where my room was at, and then it
Yeah.
went across the side into the connected to the front yard, right? So just, and I swear, I don't know if it was just me freaking out, like thinking about it now as an adult and everything that I know now, right? That all of this like folklore and cryptids and stuff like that. I swear, like there was freaking something watching me from outside of the freaking window. Like I swear, like I would be so freaked out. There was they installed a light on the outside, so there could be like a light just shining right outside the window, right? But
Yeah.
man, it's crazy. Who knows? It was my hyperactive child imagination, or I did see some shit because we were out there in the middle of like the freaking desert, kind of like not
Hmm.
very, kind of in a little civilization, but not like super big city wide kind of thing. That like maybe there was a
Yeah.
fucking chupacabra they walked by the
It
window
could
or
have. I
something. I
mean,
don't know.
you said
I
your
mean, there was
grandparents had a
dogs
bunch
though.
of dogs.
Yeah, those dogs though. So I feel like they would have probably went crazy because there was. But still, again, that just stuff like that though. It's like it's just
No, but
weird.
I mean, like maybe like the chupacabra was like after the dogs, and that's why he was kind of like sniffing around. I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows?
but
We'll
yeah,
never know.
some wild stuff. But yeah, again, that's just a whole lot of like being
That's a
scared of
different can
stuff.
of worms.
Yeah, being scared of stuff when you're little, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. That's wild.
Yep.
Def-
Cause I do definitely believe in that whole like the veil thing. I do. Cause I mean, that I'm spiritual. Uh Not religious, spiritual. And when you become more open spiritually, you tend to see things like, shadow people and whatever. And like his spirits talk to you, and it's a scary time. It is not a fun time. Okay. Like if you're scared of shit, don't do it. But like it is scary, but eventually you do get used to it and you get over things. But I am scared to open the door to the Fae world, which is something that I'm probably never going to do because I'm terrified of what's on the other side. Human spirits and like random like deities and stuff like that I can deal with, but the the Fae world scares me because there's so little that we truly know about it that like I don't want to open that door.
yeah.
But because of what I know and what I have experienced like firsthand, like that is also something that we will talk about when we talk about paranormal things. But um like I I'm terrified. I'm honestly like, as much as I love like the whole like you know, for you it was Bigfoot, but for me it was fairies. That's something that like not just fairies, but like mostly fairies, but the culture of it and
Yeah.
things in it. Um, that's what I'm honestly scared about because who knows what's really true and what really isn't. You know, because I do believe that there is something out there because why are all these like people for like hundreds of years experiencing very similar things from
Hmm.
people, you know, so far back, especially people that don't really believe in that or they like I wouldn't say maybe I wouldn't say like disbelievers, but people that are questioning, like why would all these people like be like I'm experiencing the same things and like they take videos and photos of it and like yeah, they could put those things there or you know, stuff like that, but I think that they do disguise themselves as creatures. You know, not big creatures, like little creatures like bugs and stuff like that. Because
Dang.
I have a thing where apparently butterflies crash into me all the time. This is a thing that I've always experienced for a very long time, but it didn't start happening until I started dipping my toes into learning about the Fae culture. So what if that's something that like they're
Something
like,
that
"Hey, we're
you
here."
unlocked.
Maybe they're like, "Oh, thanks for picking up the garbage on the beach or whatever," you know, because that's something that I definitely do when I go out to the beach or like I'm out in public. And I know people don't want to do that when they're out in public is pick up litter. So maybe that's like their way of saying like, "Hey, we're here. Like I just want to say thanks." And then they just crash into me. Who knows?
New skill unlocked. Summon butterflies.
Yeah. Pick up trash, summon butterflies.
That's what it is. No, yeah, for sure. There's like, I think the more you just look into certain things,
Hmm.
maybe the more that you find on it, and you're like, whoa, some of this stuff kind of makes a little bit of sense, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing about wanting to delve further into stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Some of this stuff is crazy. Some of the stuff is crazy, and it really freak you out. And it's the things that you wouldn't really think about, like
Hmm.
being scary. Again, I guess like kind of how like what happened last time. But yeah, because fairies and stuff like that. Again, you don't necessarily think of like the scariest thing or the
Hmm.
immediate danger. I guess maybe not. Maybe also too because of where we're from, what the part of the world. Like over if we were in like UK, Ireland, Scotland, that's probably more of like when somebody says like, "Oh, I had a fairy encounter," they probably were like, "What?" Kind of like how people over here is like, "Oh, I saw a Bigfoot," and people are like, "What?" Because it's just
Yeah.
more of a thing over there.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting though, all of it for sure.
Have
The
you
communities and all of that.
have you heard of the doppelganger effect?
I feel like I saw something on it, but not anytime recently. Um,
The reason I bring it up is because this is in the realm of changelings. So there's like so many creatures that are on the premises of being like a changeling. You know, I know that's something that we kind of brought up a little bit earlier, but it's not something that we technically like really talked about
mhm.
earlier. Um, but that's something that scares me. So doppelgangers are supposed to be changelings. They just have a different name. So like the changelings um somebody was trying to do the math on it and in order to make a changeling you have to have a changeling and then there's like changeling babies but then other people are saying like it has to be a changeling and a human and then they make a baby. So basically they brainwash the human and like sexually assault them and have a baby with them because they pretend to be somebody else or someone that's like that you would be into or they would like copy your partner or whatever the situation is
Yeah.
and have a baby with you and then that would create a changeling and not a human baby and the human would go about taking care of this baby as if it's like a like their baby and then they would just like leave and embrace their changeling culture but then there's also another story that says that they won't and then they just live their whole life thinking that they're a human and they go about like doing everything and that's why we see people that look very similar to us or like how other people say that they see people that look similar to us but they're not humans, they're changelings.
Mhm.
But like imagine being another person and you don't know either of these people and you see them and they look very similar. And then like who is the real person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
So like the math wasn't mathing to me, but like that
Which
was
one is a
someone's take on
robot?
the doppelganger. Yeah, because that would be my worry is like, okay, you got these two people, and let's say hypothetically you don't know either one of them,
Mm-hmm.
but like they look extremely similar, but they're not twins. They're born like a certain amount of age apart, or maybe a few months apart. Who knows? But which one is the real one? You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of suspicious. But doppelgangers also are something that like worry me. I saw a doppelganger on a street that looked just like me. So I didn't physically see them. My brother did.
Mm-hmm.
And he took a picture and it looked like my best friend and me standing next to each other, but just like a very skinnier version of both of us. And it was weird. Like when he showed me the picture, I wish I still had it. It was in my old phone, but it looked just like me and him from a different time. So like from
Damn.
like 2012 or 2013, that weird era of like, you know, coming out of like the emo era type of thing. And they were dressed just like us, skinny jeans, hoodies, you know, heavy eyeliner. These people looked just like us. It was so weird. And he saw them standing in the corner. And I thought that was fucking weird. He was so astounded by it that he thought it was me. And he took a picture and he was just like, "Did you do your hair?" And I was like, "No, I haven't touched my hair." And he was like, "Oh, that's so weird. I thought it was you and Isaac standing on the corner." And I was like, "What the fuck?" So, I mean, my doppelganger lives here in our city. I just like, I think it's just a fucking weird. Or maybe I'm the doppelganger and I don't know, and I'm just living a human
Damn.
life.
Yeah, maybe. That's why your mom
Maybe.
freaking is always freaking yelling. It's like, man, somebody took my daughter. Where's my daughter at?
Probably. Give me my child back.
Give me
Give
my
it back to
child.
me.
It's like, oh no, Sarah's a changeling. No wonder she wanted to do this topic.
And I'm just gonna be like, and just scurry away.
It's like, no energy drink. It's like, wait a second. She doesn't like energy drinks.
I like energy drinks made by The Rock. I mean, okay, I like that fool. But these are actually really fucking good. Like, I really do it. Like, if we ever get sponsored by anything, I hope it's these.
I hope I can get these energy drinks. I promise I'm not a changeling.
I promise. I promise.
That's funny. Yeah. But yeah, I think that definitely looking into the fairy stuff was kind of cool. You know, with their different groups and classifications and people using changelings to get away with real life abuse. You know, like it's all
Of all kinds.
yeah. I mean, the world seen some crazy stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and it was the time too. Like that was the perfect time frame to get away with just about anything because nothing was really on record.
That's true.
So
But yeah. But you know, I wouldn't put it past something like that happening again. Like
yeah.
some people are crazy like that. Or maybe
I
we're
mean,
crazy and they really did see a changeling. How about that? And we're like, man, did you hear about that crazy dude that freaking burned his family? But then, like, in the eyes of the guy, he's like, no, they fucking took my family. You guys don't understand. You guys are crazy. This is like, when it happens to you, you'll see.
well, the crazy thing about that too is that like if it okay, so obviously she wasn't a changeling because she died in the fire,
Yeah.
but like the crazy thing about that is when they do kidnap the humans, supposedly they enchant a log and make the log
Yes.
like
Yeah.
human. So if that
When
was
it's an
true,
adult, right? Yeah.
yeah, as an adult, but like if that was true and this was like a glamored log, this thing would have just bursted up in flames. Well, not bursted, but like like
Yeah.
how
So
logs would
yeah, according
burst.
to again more of the legend of changelings and stuff like that, if they were going to take an adult, say like a mother, because they wanted her to nurse the changeling children and stuff like that, like how we were saying towards the beginning,
Yeah,
they would cast a spell on a log, right? So they would fool their family. So when they see that log, they see it as their loved one, so they don't notice that anybody's missing. But then shortly after that, like the whole acceptance of it, then what happens is um, the log person gets usually sick with some sort of uncurable, inoperable sickness. So then they pass away, and then they have services and all of that stuff like normal. None the wiser that their actual real wife or husband or whatever was taken. Right? That's like basically that's the changeling's ploy. That's how they do it when they're taking a grown adult. Which
yeah,
is crazy. So it's just like, yeah. And which is also why supposedly that lady got murdered, because right before then she came down with like bronchitis or something like that. But they were
mm-hmm.
claiming they're like, she didn't show any signs of being sick or anything like that. Like she just got sick out of nowhere, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
now she's very sick. Like what? And they're like, you know what? Let's burn her. But yeah, yeah.
It was a crazy time. It was a crazy time.
For us,
Everybody was up for murder at that given time frame. Anyone that was just like a little off. That's why I brought up the whole like it was like a triggering time for women in general because it was anything. Oh, you have a weird freckle? Where'd you get that from? Obviously now with science it's like, oh, from the sun. That's that's sun damage. But back then it was like you're a witch. You're going to
how
die.
dare you?
Yeah, and it's crazy. It was just the craziest shit. Oh my god, my apples rotted. Witch dead. You know?
You
So I
burned the
mean,
roast. That's it. You're dead.
dead.
Right.
Dead because that's off behavior and
Right.
you need to die cuz you're not you. You're taken over by the devil, you're taken over by the fairies. Who fucking knows? Like it was a crazy it's a crazy experience.
Yeah.
Because like I mean they don't really talk about like men being kidnapped or murdered or set on fire or any of that,
Because they don't have
like
any use. That's why.
it's very rare that like they hurt men. But it was like always women, it was always children. It was always the dog, you know? So,
It's because with particularly like the fairies for sure. It was always the children and the women. They never really cared for the men.
yeah.
They just needed people to watch their kids.
But I mean, there has been like, well, obviously, I don't know if it's true or not, but there was fairies that would have intercourse with the guys, not just the women, but the guys. And so I mean, that's the only thing that I could really see them really using a guy for is just because from what I understand, fairies in general can't procreate from what I understand. So that's why they glamour humans and they have like sexual intercourse with them. And that's how fairies come about.
It's crazy.
Is from fairies.
And then the ones that are like all fucked up are like leprechauns and stuff. They're the ones that are not. That are the lower class fairies.
It's
If I
crazy
may.
to me.
But yeah, no, the fairy topic was interesting with the different courts and the different categories and all of that for sure. There was some stuff in there that I didn't think that pertained to them or even that I was gonna run into. But it's pretty good, and that's pretty much all I have as far as this topic.
Yeah, same, pretty much.
But yeah, so we'll be back next time. We're not really sure what the next topic is, but we should be back a lot faster with it this time.
No more E. coli water.
Yeah,
We're
right.
good
I'm
now.
not drinking out of the sink anymore. Okay, I'm good to go. All right, I get all my water from Colorado now. Right.
The purest,
Right.
straight from the source.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with you guys next time. We'll see what we'll be getting into. Who knows? We started talking about skinwalkers and stuff. Maybe we'll do that. But either way, it'll be something. And yeah, thanks for stopping in. And I'll see you guys next time.